They say love is the greatest force in the universe. But what if we've misunderstood it all along? We chase romance, longing for someone to complete us. We fall into passion, believing we've found the one. But what if that intensity, that obsession, that ache, isn't just about the other person? What if it's a reflection of something much deeper, something buried inside our own psyche? Carl Jung believed love isn't just an emotion, it's a mirror that shows us the parts of ourselves we've forgotten, denied, or never even met. In love, we don't just encounter another human being, we come face to face with our own shadow, our hidden needs, and the parts of our soul still searching for wholeness. This isn't the fairy tale version of love. This is love as transformation, love as awakening, love as the fire that burns through illusion and brings us closer to who we truly are. And the truth is, if we don't understand our unconscious patterns, if we don't know what within us is choosing, longing, and projecting, then love can become a cycle of pain instead of a path to meaning. This journey into Jung's perspective is not about finding perfect relationships. It's about discovering the forgotten side of love, the side that speaks in symbols, in dreams, in wounds, and in wonder, the side that leads us not only toward others, but deeper into ourselves. Love today is everywhere. On screens, in songs, in endless swipes and scrolling. We talk about it, chase it, and dream of it. But despite how visible love has become, many people feel more confused, disappointed, and disconnected than ever in their relationships. Carl Jung believed that part of the problem lies in how we've misunderstood love's true purpose. What if modern love is missing something essential, something hidden, something forgotten? Jung approached love not just as an emotional experience, but as a psychological and even spiritual process. For him, love wasn't just about two people coming together. It was about the inner journey each person takes when they meet someone who awakens something deep within. In his view, the way we love is not just about who we choose, but why we are drawn to them. And very often, we don't even understand that reason ourselves. In our time, love is often romanticized as a perfect match, someone who completes us. But Jung questioned this idea. He saw this search for a perfect partner as a mirror of something more profound, our search for our own missing parts. When we fall in love, we are not only responding to the other person's traits, we are also reacting to parts of ourselves that we've forgotten or hidden. That's why love can feel so magical and so confusing. Jung suggested that the people we fall in love with often carry the qualities we have repressed in ourselves. If you're very logical, you might fall for someone wildly emotional. If you're reserved, you may be drawn to someone expressive and bold. This isn't random. It's a sign that your unconscious mind is trying to bring balance, to help you grow. Love, then, is a kind of call toward wholeness. But here's where things get tricky. Because these inner parts are unconscious, we don't realize what's really happening. We may think, I love her because she's so free-spirited, without realizing that her freedom represents a part of ourselves we've buried. And when the excitement fades or when conflict arises, we don't understand why the same person we once adored now frustrates or disappoints us. Jung called this the tension of opposites. The pull between what we show to the world and what we hide inside. One of Jung's most powerful ideas is that love is not meant to make us happy all the time. It's meant to wake us up. It challenges us, stirs the parts of our psyche that are dormant or denied. This is why real love is often hard. It brings light, but it also brings shadow. It shows us our beauty and our brokenness. And in this modern age, we often escape that challenge. Instead of facing discomfort, we move on. Instead of understanding conflict, we blame the other. Instead of looking inward, we distract ourselves with another face, another app, another illusion. Jung warned that when we avoid the deeper work love demands, we remain caught in cycles, always seeking, never finding. But when we begin to see love as a mirror, something changes. We start asking different questions. Instead of asking, "Why doesn't my partner make me feel whole?" we begin to ask, "What is this relationship revealing about me?" That question, though small, opens the door to transformation. Love, in Jung's perspective, is one of the most powerful tools the psyche uses to push us toward growth. That's why it often begins with attraction but deepens through struggle. That's why we may fall for someone who isn't easy to understand, because they carry the very mystery that we need to explore within ourselves. So the mystery behind modern love isn't really about other people. It's about us. It's about the forgotten work that love was always meant to do, to lead us back to the unknown sides of ourselves. This might not sound like the fairy tale version of love, but it is far more real, and in its own way, far more beautiful. In the end, Jung teaches us that love is not the destination. It's the path. Not something we find, but something that finds us and invites us to become more whole, more conscious, and more human. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we've forgotten. Carl Jung believed that each of us carries within our unconscious mind an image of the opposite gender. For men, this image is the anima, the feminine aspect of their psyche. For women, it is the animus, the masculine counterpart. These are not just symbols or fantasies. They are powerful psychological forces that influence who we're drawn to, how we relate to others, and even how we understand love itself. Think of the anima and animus as internal characters that develop throughout our lives. They're built from early impressions of our parents, culture, and personal experiences. But over time, they grow into much more than memories. They become complex, living energies within us. And when we fall in love, it's often because someone on the outside has awakened these figures on the inside. For example, a man may feel an intense, almost spiritual attraction to a woman who embodies his ideal of beauty, emotion, or creativity. He may not understand why he feels so strongly, but Jung would say he's not just falling for her, he's falling for his anima projected onto her. She reflects something deep inside him that he has not yet made conscious. Likewise, a woman might feel irresistibly drawn to a man who is confident, intellectual, or bold. To Jung, this man may represent her animus, the unexpressed strength or logic within her. She may see in him the parts of herself she hasn't yet claimed. And so, just like the man, she's not only falling in love with another person, she's connecting with a missing part of her own soul. Jung didn't see this as unhealthy or wrong. In fact, he believed that falling in love was one of the primary ways the unconscious tries to heal us, by showing us what's incomplete or hidden. But problems begin when we mistake the projection for the person. We think we've found the one, when in truth, we've found someone who fits the image we carry inside. And as time goes on, we realize that no real person can fully live up to the fantasy our unconscious created. This is when many relationships break down. The spell fades. We begin to notice flaws. We wonder what happened. But Jung would say the projection has lifted. Now we're seeing the real person, not our ideal. And this is where true love can begin, if we're willing to move from illusion to understanding. The anima and animus also influence how we behave in love. A man disconnected from his anima might struggle to express emotion, avoid vulnerability, or overvalue logic. He may expect his partner to carry all the emotional weight in the relationship. But by integrating his anima, by connecting with his own inner feelings, intuition, and creativity, he becomes more balanced, more capable of love that is both strong and tender. Similarly, a woman out of touch with her animus might fear taking initiative, speaking her truth, or asserting boundaries. She may look to a partner for direction or strength. But as she develops her inner masculine, her confidence, clarity, and voice, she steps into relationships not from dependence, but from wholeness. Jung taught that romantic relationships become deeper and more conscious when each person begins to integrate their anima or animus. This is not just personal growth, it's sacred work. It transforms love from a place of need and projection into a space of shared evolution. That's why Jung believed that the anima and animus are not just psychological tools, they are spiritual guides. They point us toward the parts of ourselves we've left behind, often because society told us to. For men, this may be softness, creativity, empathy. For women, it may be logic, power, or independence. But love, in its deeper form, brings these energies back into our awareness. In the end, the anima and animus remind us that what we seek in others often lives within us. The romantic journey, then, is not just about finding the right person. It's about awakening the right parts of ourselves. When we do this inner work, we stop asking love to complete us. Instead, we bring our whole self into love. And that is what makes love not only more real, but more resilient. Because it's not just based on longing, it's rooted in becoming. Carl Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Nowhere is this more evident than in romantic relationships. We often wonder why love can turn painful, why the same person who once made us feel alive can later make us feel wounded, unheard, or even unloved. Jung believed the answer lies in a part of ourselves we usually try to avoid: the shadow. The shadow, in Jung's theory, is the hidden part of our personality, the side we don't want to see or admit to. It contains everything we've rejected: anger, envy, selfishness, insecurity, fear, and even unacknowledged desires. We don't get rid of the shadow by ignoring it. Instead, it sinks deeper into the unconscious. And from there, it influences us in powerful, unseen ways, especially in love. When we enter a relationship, we don't just bring our smiles, hopes, and dreams. We also bring our fears, wounds, and defenses. At first, these may stay buried. The excitement of falling in love makes it easy to stay in the light. But over time, intimacy pulls our deeper selves to the surface. The more emotionally close we become, the more the shadow begins to show. This is when many couples begin to argue, withdraw, or misunderstand each other, not because something has gone wrong, but because something real is finally being revealed. Let's say someone grew up believing they had to always be kind and calm to be loved. That person may have pushed down their anger for years, but in a relationship, small conflicts might make them overreact or shut down. They're not reacting to the present. They're reacting to years of repressed emotion. This is the shadow coming forward, demanding to be acknowledged. Another person might see themselves as strong and independent and deny any need for emotional support. But in love, they may suddenly feel vulnerable, even clingy. They may not understand these feelings and push their partner away. Again, the shadow is at work, bringing up the parts of themselves they've tried to ignore. What makes the shadow so difficult in relationships is that we often don't see it in ourselves. Instead, we see it in our partner. We project it onto them. If we're afraid of our own weakness, we might criticize them for being too emotional. If we deny our own controlling tendencies, we might accuse them of being manipulative. This is projection, a defense mechanism that Jung explored deeply. It protects our self-image, but damages our connection with others. And this is how love, when unconscious, can hurt. We think we're fighting our partner, but often we're battling with our own inner demons. The person in front of us becomes a screen onto which we project unresolved pain, past experiences, and forgotten parts of ourselves. In this way, relationships become mirrors. and the reflection isn't always easy to look at. Yet Jung did not see this as a reason to avoid love. In fact, he believed this confrontation with the shadow is one of love's most important roles. A true partnership, in Jung's view, is not about avoiding conflict. It's about facing it with awareness. When a couple sees their problems not as personal failures but as invitations to grow, the relationship deepens. Facing the shadow takes courage. It means owning your flaws, listening instead of blaming, and asking, "What is this reaction teaching me about myself?" It means realizing that your partner isn't responsible for your emotions, but they can help you understand them. And it also means recognizing that their shadow is part of the package too, and loving them even when it's hard. One of the most beautiful things Jung taught is that the shadow, though difficult, is not evil. It's just unknown. And when we bring it into the light, when we talk about our fears, admit our mistakes, and allow ourselves to be fully seen, it begins to transform. What once caused pain becomes a source of strength and connection. So why do we hurt the ones we love? Because love touches the deepest parts of us, the light and the dark. But if we're willing to see those parts clearly, love can become a path of healing, not just happiness. Jung believed that only by embracing our wholeness, not just the good parts, can we truly love another as they are. In the end, relationships are not just about companionship, they're about growth. And growth is never without struggle. But the shadow doesn't have to be feared. It can be faced with honesty, compassion, and the awareness that in doing so, we don't just become better partners, we become fuller human beings. When we fall in love, it often feels sudden, magical, almost like fate. We're drawn to someone's smile, their voice, their presence. We feel like we've found someone special, someone who understands us in a way no one else does. But Carl Jung urged us to pause and ask a deeper question. What are we really falling in love with? His answer was both simple and profound. We are falling in love with a projection of ourselves. In Jungian psychology, projection is a process in which we unconsciously transfer our own thoughts, feelings, or traits onto another person. In romantic relationships, this means we may not be seeing the person in front of us clearly. Instead, we see parts of ourselves reflected in them, parts we may not fully understand or even be aware of. Let's say someone grows up with a deep longing for emotional safety, but never truly received it. Later in life, they meet someone kind and nurturing, and instantly feel a powerful connection. Jung would suggest that they're not only drawn to the person's kindness, they are projecting their own inner need for safety onto that person. It feels like love, but it may also be an unconscious attempt to fulfill something missing within. In this way, projection acts like a mirror. The person we fall for seems to carry the beauty, strength, confidence, mystery, or warmth that we crave, because on some level these qualities are hidden within us. The attraction feels intense because the unconscious is being stirred. Something forgotten in us is being awakened by someone else. This is why new love often feels like coming home. But there's a problem. A projection is not the whole person. It's a fantasy, an idealized image, and real people are more complex. They have flaws, moods, and limitations. As the relationship matures, the projection starts to crack. We begin to see the person behind the illusion. They may say or do something that surprises us, disappoints us, or even hurts us. The magical feeling fades, and we wonder, have they changed? Or have I? More often, it's neither. What's changed is that the projection has lifted. This is where many relationships struggle. Some end, not because the love wasn't real, but because the illusion was mistaken for reality. We thought the person was perfect because they matched our inner story. But when the story fades, so does the romance. Unless we choose to see beyond the projection, and truly meet the person for who they are. Jung didn't believe projection was bad. In fact, he saw it as necessary. We all begin relationships with some form of projection. It's how the unconscious introduces us to what we need to learn. The problem arises only when we cling to the fantasy and refuse to grow beyond it. The key is awareness. When we recognize that we're projecting, we can start asking deeper questions. What does this person represent for me? Why am I so drawn to them? What qualities in them do I admire, and do I possess those qualities too, somewhere inside me? These questions move us from unconscious love to conscious love, from fantasy to reality. In long-term relationships, projection often reappears during conflict. For instance, if you have unresolved issues with a parent, you might unknowingly react to your partner as if they are that parent. You may accuse them, expect things from them, or feel triggered by them in ways that don't match the present moment. This is the past leaking into the present through projection. But with self-awareness, this painful pattern can be transformed. We can stop blaming our partner for what lives inside us and begin to take responsibility for our own healing. Jung believed this was one of the highest purposes of love, not just to make us feel good, but to make us whole. Ultimately, projection teaches us that love is never just about the other person. It's about the relationship between our inner world and the outer world. The person we love may be the spark, but the fire is already within us. By reclaiming our projections, by recognizing the strength, beauty, or passion we see in others as part of ourselves, we grow into more complete human beings. So the next time you feel swept away by love, ask yourself gently, what am I really seeing in this person? Because sometimes the face we're falling for is not a stranger's. It's our own, reflected back at us. That doesn't make love less real. In fact, it makes it more honest. It shows us that love isn't just about finding someone who completes us. It's about discovering, through them, the parts of ourselves we had forgotten. Carl Jung introduced one of the most powerful ideas in depth psychology: individuation. It's the process of becoming your true self, not the self others expect, not the roles you've been handed, but the full, integrated human being you are meant to become. What's often overlooked is how central love is to that process. Jung believed that relationships, especially romantic ones, can serve as catalysts for individuation if we allow them to. At the beginning of a relationship, love feels like unity. There's a sweetness to it, a merging of souls. We share dreams, values, and desires. It feels like we've found our other half. But Jung would caution that this initial unity is only the first step. Real love doesn't dissolve your identity, it deepens it. And for that to happen, you must separate from the illusion of perfect fusion and begin the journey inward. In other words, the person you fall in love with is not meant to complete you, but to challenge you. Romantic love awakens your inner world. It brings your unconscious to the surface, and it invites you to confront both your potential and your limitations. Imagine two people deeply in love. At first, they idealize one another, but over time, differences appear. One is emotionally expressive, the other is more reserved. One dreams of adventure, the other values stability. Tension builds. Many couples, when faced with this stage, believe something has gone wrong. But Jung would say, something important is beginning. This is the turning point, where love moves from projection to reality, and the work of individuation begins. At this stage, each person has a choice. Either demand the other to change, or begin to ask, why am I reacting this way? What is this person showing me about myself? The partner becomes a mirror, not just of our beauty, but of our unfinished business, our wounds, our shadows, and our untapped strengths. Instead of blaming them, we can start learning from them. This is the heart of individuation through love. using the relationship not as an escape from yourself, but as a path back to yourself. For example, if you're someone who avoids conflict, a relationship might push you to speak up and assert yourself. That's not easy, but it's necessary. If you're emotionally closed off, being with someone deeply expressive may stir discomfort. Again, that's part of the work. Love reveals the parts of you that need to grow, not to please someone else, but to become a more whole version of you. Jung emphasized that individuation is not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming complete. That means accepting not just the light parts of yourself, the kind, capable, thoughtful self, but also the flawed, angry, insecure parts. And in a healthy relationship, both people are doing this inner work. They're not clinging to each other for identity. They're supporting each other's journey toward authenticity. And here lies a paradox. The more whole each person becomes on their own, the stronger the love between them can grow. This is what Jung meant when he said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Love, then, is not a place to hide from yourself. It's a place where transformation can happen, where you are seen, challenged, and invited to evolve. But this only works if you allow love to teach you. Many people chase relationships for comfort, for distraction, or to fill a void. But Jung encourages us to look deeper. He asks us to see relationships as opportunities, not to merge, but to grow. Not to escape life's complexity, but to embrace it. Because through love, we discover the tension between our current self and our potential self. And that tension, though uncomfortable, is the very force that fuels individuation. In the end, love is not the opposite of individuation. It's part of the path. A conscious relationship becomes a sacred space where both partners are free to explore who they truly are. They may walk beside each other, but each one is responsible for their own journey. And when two individuated souls choose to stay connected, not out of dependency but from mutual growth, the result is not just romance, it's transformation. So love is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a much deeper one. A story not just about us, but about becoming me, fully, honestly, and courageously. That is Jung's vision of love, not as a fairy tale, but as a fire through which we are forged. Romantic love often begins with the belief that someone else will complete us. It's a longing deeply rooted in the human psyche, and Carl Jung understood this as more than just emotional desire. It's a reflection of our inner quest for wholeness. Jung didn't believe we were meant to find completion through another person, but rather that love mirrors our inner need to unite all the lost, fragmented parts of ourselves. This longing starts early in life. From childhood, we're taught to be a certain way, polite, strong, smart, quiet, responsible. But in becoming who we are supposed to be, we often cut off other parts of ourselves. Maybe we stop expressing anger because it was punished. Maybe we hide our sensitivity because it was mocked. Over time, we grow into adults who feel like something is missing, but we don't know what. Then we fall in love, and suddenly, that missing piece seems to appear in someone else. This, Jung said, is no coincidence. Romantic love stirs the unconscious. It draws us toward the qualities we've exiled from ourselves. If we're overly rational, we might fall in love with someone deeply emotional. If we're quiet and reserved, we may be captivated by someone loud and confident. This isn't just preference. It's symbolic. It's our psyche trying to recover what we lost in becoming the person we are today. But here's the challenge. We often confuse this process with completion through another person. We think they are what we were missing, when in fact, they're showing us what we need to reclaim inside ourselves. Let's take an example. A man who always plays the role of the caretaker, strong, protective, composed, might fall deeply in love with someone free-spirited and emotionally expressive. In the beginning, her spontaneity and depth may feel like magic, but over time it may begin to overwhelm or frustrate him. The qualities he was once drawn to now make him uncomfortable. Why? Because he hasn't yet integrated those same qualities in himself. Jung would say this conflict isn't a sign that the love is wrong, but that it's doing its true work, pulling him toward his own wholeness. The woman isn't there to balance him out. She's a mirror of the balance he needs to find within. The same applies to her. She may admire his calmness and strength because she's disconnected from her own stability, but unless she works to develop that side of herself, she'll depend on him to carry it. That imbalance creates tension. One partner becomes the anchor, the other the wave, but the real task is for each person to become both wave and anchor within themselves. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of the inner marriage, the symbolic union of opposites within. Love invites us to this inner work. It asks us not just to admire the other person, but to learn from them, not to rely on them for what we lack, but to use their reflection to grow more whole ourselves. This doesn't mean love becomes selfish or solitary. Quite the opposite. Two people who are working toward wholeness within become better partners to each other. They don't need to control or fix each other. They no longer love from a place of lack, but from a place of abundance. They don't say, "I need you to complete me." They say, "I am becoming whole and I choose to walk with you." Of course, this journey isn't always smooth. Relationships will still stir up insecurity, jealousy, fear, and old wounds. But instead of seeing these as failures, Jung invites us to see them as signs. Here is where you are still growing. Here is what still needs your attention. Love becomes a mirror for your inner life, not just your joy, but your unfinished stories. Jung believed that our ultimate task is to become whole, not perfect, but whole. That means honoring every part of ourselves, the strong and the soft, the logical and the emotional, the bold and the fearful. Romantic love is a powerful stage where this wholeness can begin to take shape because it forces us to confront parts of ourselves we can't see on our own. So the next time you feel drawn to someone, ask, what is it in them that feels familiar, exciting, or even uncomfortable? What they awaken in you is a clue, not just about them, but about you. And through that clue, you can begin the sacred work of becoming the person you were always meant to be. In this way, love is not a distraction from the self. It is a deep return to the self, a reminder that wholeness is not something we find in another person. It's something we uncover through the experience of loving and being loved. Carl Jung believed that most people enter romantic relationships unconsciously. That doesn't mean the love isn't real. It simply means we're often unaware of the deeper psychological patterns guiding our choices, expectations, and emotional reactions. This is what Jung called unconscious love, a kind of love that is beautiful and intense but also fragile, unpredictable, and often painful. The goal, Jung argued, is not to avoid love, but to transform it, to move from unconscious love to conscious love. Unconscious love is guided by fantasy and projection. We meet someone and instantly feel they are the one. There's an emotional high, a sense of fate, even obsession, but in many cases we're not loving the person as they are. We're loving what they represent to our unconscious mind. They might embody our longing for safety, for adventure, for nurturing, or for power. As a result, we place immense expectations on them, sometimes without even realizing it. This kind of love is often driven by hidden forces, past wounds, unmet childhood needs, or unintegrated parts of ourselves. For example, someone who was emotionally neglected as a child may unconsciously seek partners who are distant, repeating the same pain in an effort to fix the past. Or a person who repressed their anger might be drawn to someone fiery and assertive, only to resent them later. These are examples of how unconscious dynamics shape who we love and how we love. In unconscious love, conflict feels like betrayal. We may think, they've changed, or they're not who I thought they were. But in reality, the illusion is fading and the real person is beginning to emerge. This is the moment many relationships end. Not because love disappears, but because the unconscious framework supporting it collapses. Jung, however, believed this collapse is not a failure. It's a chance to begin again, this time with awareness. When we shift into conscious love, we stop expecting the other person to carry our pain or fulfill our fantasy. Instead, we start to see them as they really are, a complex, imperfect human being, just like us. Conscious love is grounded in acceptance and curiosity. We begin to ask, who is this person really? Not, how can they make me feel whole? We listen more. We stop trying to change them into what we want. And most importantly, we start looking inward when we feel triggered, asking, what part of me is being touched right now? What do I need to understand about myself? This kind of love takes courage. It means we must own our emotional reactions rather than blaming our partner for them. It means recognizing that our partner is not our savior or our parent, but our equal. Conscious love is not always as euphoric as unconscious love. It may feel less dramatic, but it is deeper, steadier, and more respectful. It thrives on honesty, not fantasy, on growth, not dependency. In conscious relationships, both partners are aware of their individual journeys. They support each other's growth, not out of obligation, but because they value evolution. They speak openly about needs, fears, and dreams, not to manipulate, but to connect. They can disagree without destroying each other, and when conflict arises, they use it as a mirror. What is this teaching me about myself, rather than, what's wrong with you? Jung believed that conscious love is rare, not because people don't want it, but because it demands maturity, emotional intelligence, and self-reflection. It requires that we stop blaming love when things get hard, and instead take responsibility for our own healing. One of Jung's most powerful insights was this: where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, their love is lacking. In unconscious relationships, we often seek control. We want to be loved our way. We want our partner to meet our expectations. We want to feel secure at any cost. But in conscious love, we let go of power. We allow the other to be free. We learn to trust, not blindly, but wisely. Ultimately, conscious love is not about finding the perfect partner. It's about becoming a conscious partner, someone who can love with eyes wide open, who can embrace both joy and difficulty, both light and shadow. Because true love, as Jung saw it, is not blind, it is aware, and that awareness changes everything. It makes love more resilient, more honest, more alive. In the end, love doesn't just reveal who the other person is, it reveals who we are. Conscious love is the courageous choice to keep discovering both, not once, but over and over again.